William Cross, got home early in the morning. The old iron fence in front of his house was damp with dew. Thin strands of spider silk stretched between the bars, glistening in the sunlight with 1,000 tiny rainbows. Flashes of the previous night's events drifted through his mind. The police station had been bustling with interrogations all night. The dim glow of desk lamps barely cut through the grim atmosphere of the interrogation room. Officers questioned everyone who had been anywhere near the station, but it led nowhere. 2 individuals were brought in for questioning and became prime suspects. During this time, both of them were escorted to the restroom one by one, passing by Billy McCoy. What if the person who killed McCoy could have killed Evelyn too? How could he have left her alone? One person in particular caught the investigators' attention, Marco Alvarez. It turned out he lived in the same neighborhood as McCoy and could have crossed paths with him. Cross didn't believe in coincidences or random chances, but Alvarez denied everything, claiming he didn't even know McCoy. Other suspects mentioned that Alvarez and McCoy had exchanged glances a few times, making it seem like they knew each other. But no one saw McCoy being stabbed with the scalpel. William lay down on his bed and drifted into a deep sleep. Cross was woken up by the irresistible aroma of fresh pancakes. It was noon. The outlines of the distant hills looked hazy, like a mirage shimmering in the scorching air of an August day. Miss Lambert was busy in the kitchen when William walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her. Evelyn, her cheeks flushed from the oven's heat, was setting the table. William watched her, unable to look away. "Eat before it gets cold," she said with a shy laugh, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She could tell William liked her, and she liked him too. "You know, you'll have to stay with me for a while," he said, locking eyes with her. "That way, I'll know you're safe. When I'm at work, Sergeant Robert Winslow will keep an eye on you. Solid guy, though he's got no sense of humor." After lunch, Cross headed to the station. An old floor fan stood in the corner of the detective's office, its rusty blades creaking with every sluggish rotation, but even its weak breeze couldn't chase away the heavy heat that had settled in after a long day. Cross settled comfortably into his leather chair and immersed himself in work. All the clues pointed to Frederick Larson. Larson's business card at the crime scene was just too obvious. William never trusted evidence that convenient. But the motive remained unclear. Cross dove into Larson's past, hoping to find an answer. He decided to start with his college years. He needed to figure out who else was in the photo with Larson and McCoy. Cross stared at the photograph for a long time. What unusual shoes the girl next to Larson is wearing, William thought. Part of the photo had been torn away, leaving only the girl's slender legs in shoes with slanted straps and a small gold buckle shaped like a rose. Those shoes were definitely one of a kind. In an hour, Cross had a scheduled meeting with Frederick Larson's former college professor, Dr. Donald Barker. The room, filled with heavy furniture and steeped in the aroma of bergamot tea, looked like a museum of the past. Professor Barker turned out to be a very hospitable man. He poured William a cup of tea and began talking about Larson. Frederick Larson had been a talented student, academically strong, active in college life, and even played the guitar. But when William mentioned Billy McCoy, the professor's expression darkened. He explained that during his first year, Billy was caught stealing money from a fellow student and was expelled. Beyond that, he didn't know much about what had happened to his former students. "Do you happen to have any old photos of your students from those years?" William asked hopefully. He couldn't get the image of the girl's unusual shoes out of his mind. With a groan, the professor reached into a cabinet, pulled out a box filled with photographs, and grabbed a few albums. Cross sipped his tea while flipping through the pictures, but the girl with the distinctive shoes was nowhere to be found. "Here's a photo of the whole class," Frederick Larson was in. "And that's me in the center," the professor chuckled. William studied the young faces with curiosity, until suddenly he froze. "Who's this?" he asked, pointing at a young man with a serious expression. He had seen this face before. "That's Edward Dorsey," Barker replied. "He and Frederick Larson were friends. I believe they even worked together later." Cross hurried to leave. He needed to rethink his next moves immediately. So lost in thought, he almost didn't notice the blue Plymouth trailing him down the road. Now he decided to play it smart. Acting as if he hadn't spotted the tail, he pulled over near a store. Cross got out of his car and headed inside. As soon as the blue Plymouth rolled forward, William jumped back into his car and sped after it. The Plymouth tore off, racing down the highway. Realizing he had no chance against the Buick, the driver started weaving through side streets, barely making the turns. Trying to shake his pursuer, he suddenly veered into a gas station lot at full speed. But the turn was too sharp. He lost control and crashed straight into a fuel tanker. A massive explosion rocked the area. A blinding flash lit up the night, momentarily stunning Cross. He slammed on the brakes and threw the car into reverse to avoid the falling debris. Stepping out of his car, he cautiously approached the smoldering wreckage of the Plymouth. It was clear identifying the driver wasn't going to be easy. He came home feeling excited. Tomorrow he would go see Edward Dorsey and have him explain everything about his connection with Larson. At dinner, William admired how skillfully Evelyn handled the dough. She was baking an apple pie. Cross watched her work the dough, but all he could see in his mind were the falling wreckage of the blue Plymouth. Thoughts of Edward Dorsey kept creeping into his head. "Can you believe who I found in Professor Barker's album today?" William asked. "Who?" Evelyn turned around, brushing flour off her hands. "Edward Dorsey. He went to school with Frederick Larson and Billy McCoy. Did you ever run into Dorsey at Eleanor Chesser's place when they were still together?" "I saw Edward Dorsey at Eleanor's a few times, but we barely spoke. He struck me as a really unpleasant man. Once Eleanor told me he was too good to be true," Evelyn said. She turned away and started peeling the apples. Talking about Edward Dorsey was clearly uncomfortable for Evelyn. Maybe they had interacted more than she let on. But if she wanted to tell me, she would do it in her own time, William thought. He stepped behind her and wrapped his arms tightly around her.